Good morning, afternoon, and night to everyone who's come out today for our talk. 各位觀眾你好. Thank you for joining us for Bridging Tongues, Building Identities by being Cantonese-English Bilingual Matters, hosted by Save Cantonese at Stanford and Save Cantonese at CCSF. Joining us today, we have our lovely guest, Ariel Chan. Ariel is a bilingual speaker of Cantonese and English and holds a PhD in East Asian linguistics from UCLA, Go Bruins, and is currently an Ideal Provostial Fellow and lecturer at Stanford University's Department of Linguistics. Her research focuses on bilingualism, exploring the intersection of cultural identity, social context, and language processing. As an immigrant from Hong Kong and advocate for Cantonese, she co-founded Apex Brilliance Education Solutions to enhance Cantonese language accessibility. If you have any other questions for Ariel during the discussion, feel free to put them in the Zoom chat and we'll try to answer them during the Q&A session. Now, take it away, Ariel.
Thank you, Ryan, for the lovely introduction. And thank you for Save Cantonese to invite me to be here today. I feel really, really honored to be able to share my research with the Cantonese community. And let me start by sharing my screen here. Give me one moment. Okay, so I have to do one more time. Okay, all right. Here we go. So all of you should be seeing my slide right now. Okay, so today the topic of the talk would be Bridging Tongues, Building Identities, Why Being Cantonese-English Bilingual Matters. And I'm going to start the talk by sharing a personal story of my own. So I just remember that there are many, many times when I tell some new friends that, oh, I'm from Hong Kong. And the first reaction that they would offer to me right away is, oh, that means you speak Mandarin. And they would either do this or they would just like start right away trying to like talk to me in Mandarin and assuming that I speak Mandarin because I'm Chinese and I'm from Hong Kong. And then I would say, no, I actually speak Cantonese. And at that point, usually they start to be really confused. They would start to ask, oh, like, does that mean that like, oh, I guess like Cantonese and Mandarin are kind of like the same and like you can understand both, right? So I wanted to share this story because I know like there must be a story that a lot of you can resonate with in your daily life as well. And the question here is really, why do people believe that every Chinese speaks Mandarin in the US? And I'm going to invite all of you to participate in this part by answering a poll. So there are four options here. First option, there are not that many Chinese in the US. So people have limited knowledge about Chinese language. Second, because Mandarin is the only Chinese variety taught in schools. Because there aren't that many Cantonese speakers outside of Hong Kong, Macau, and Guangdong province in China. And finally, option D, because of the stereotypes and generalizations influenced by China's economic and political power and the lack of awareness. So let's see what we have here. Maybe seems that people are still responding. I will give 10 more seconds. Let's see. Okay. So I guess everybody have responded. All right, so let me see if I can show I think I can share the result. So all of you should be looking at the results. So it seems that a lot of you chose D because of the stereotypes and generalizations influenced by China's economic and political power. And there are also some of you who chose, oh, there are not that many Cantonese speakers outside of Hong Kong, Macau, and Guangdong province. And some of you also chose because Mandarin is the only Chinese variety taught in schools. And one of you picked not many Chinese in the US. All right, so we are going to get to each of these answers one by one in the following slides. All right, so first, coming back to this question, right? Like, do we really not have that many Chinese speakers in the US? I wanted to showcase a map here. As you can see, this is a map of the US, and there's so many different colors here representing the linguistic diversity across the United States. And this map, basically what it does is it presents the most commonly spoken language in every state other than English and Spanish. So different colors represent different language. And as we can see here on the map, right, the dark orange color represents the Chinese language, right, which includes both Cantonese and Mandarin. And we can see that the Chinese language is actually prevalent across many, many different states, right, along Spanish and English. So there are really, really a lot of Chinese speakers in this country. And okay, so let's zoom out a little bit more. What about across the globe? And if we zoom out and we look at the world map, again, like from darker color to lighter color, the black color, that part you see is China, many, many Chinese speakers. And we can see that like even in other parts of the world, there are really a lot of Chinese as well, right? In the States where we can see that there's dark red color representing 10 to 2 million plus speakers. So that means that there are actually a substantial number of Chinese speakers, not only in the US, not only in China, not only in Hong Kong, but like across like different places in the world. Okay, so with that said, I'm going to ask you a second question, and I'm going to ask you to do a second poll. How popular is Cantonese? How is Cantonese ranked in terms of popularity among all languages in the world? So again, 4 choices. First choice is language is only spoken by people in Hong Kong, Macau, and Guangdong province in China. So it is ranked very low. Top 50, top 20, and top 10. What do you all think? All right, so we're going to wait a little bit for people to think about that. Take your pick. Okay. Let's wait for 10 more seconds. Okay. I see that the majority of you have already answered. Okay, so let me end the poll and share what all of you think. Okay, so as you can see from here, again, like the answer is pretty split. The responses are pretty split. So around like 1/3 of you, maybe one third of you say that it's top 50, right? Followed by the answer of top 10. And then top 20, and a lot of you say not a lot, like 2 of you said that it's only spoken in Hong Kong, Macau, and Guangdong province. So answer here is Cantonese. According to Ethnoc 2024, nearly 87 million speaker speaking Cantonese as their native language, and it's actually the 9th most spoken language in the world. So think about Hong Kong itself alone already has 7 million native speakers, and we have actually 1 million native speakers in the US, 725,000 speakers in Canada, and in mainland China, there are around 73 million native speakers of Cantonese. So Cantonese is really a big language, right? Even like if we're just talking about the number of speakers, which is like opposite to what a lot of people think. I remember sometimes like when I talk to people saying that, oh, like I speak Cantonese, they would say like, oh, it's really special because not many people speak Cantonese. But the truth is, it's actually a lot of people speak Cantonese. And it's actually one of the most spoken language across all the world languages. And then we have to ask one question, right? Because like if we think about what in school where we have a lot of foreign language subjects that we can choose to learn, but Cantonese most of the time is not really an option. And why is Cantonese not widely recognized as one of the foreign language subjects in college? So say for instance, maybe a lot of you actually speak Italian or learn Italian in college. Italian has around 64 million native speakers. What about Korean? A lot of you may like K-pop and you learn Korean as well. So Korean has around 81 million native speakers. What about Greek? I don't know whether some of you learn Greek as well. So Greek is also a subject in college, right? And Greek actually has only 13 million native speakers. And if we're just talking about the number, really that's not the reason why Cantonese is not recognized, right? Because like just now we already saw that like Cantonese is actually one of the most widely spoken language. It's actually top 10 of the world languages. And Cantonese has 86 million native speakers. Rather, it is actually a social justice issue. So now I'm going to switch gear to talk a little bit about like what my research is about and how it contributes to the Cantonese community. My research looks at bilingualism, and it centers on the diversity of bilingualism, meaning that I look at bilinguals on its own rather than comparing bilingual people against monolingual English speakers, which a lot of times assume to be white monolingual English speakers. I study the connection between bilingualism and cultural identity and look at how cultural identity of bilingual people actually affect the way that they use their languages. And I also challenge the assumption of code switching. So code switching here basically means switching between two or more languages in conversation. I'm sure that a lot of you who are Cantonese-English bilinguals yourself are also doing that, right? Like when you're talking to another Cantonese-English bilingual speaker. And my research has shown that like instead of perceiving code switching as cognitive and language deficiency, it actually demonstrates how bilinguals are flexible and fluent in the cognition and languages. So what do we study? In most of my research, I look at Cantonese-English bilinguals with diverse language and cultural experience. And in particular, I'm going to share the 3 groups of English Cantonese bilinguals that I look at. The first group is called heritage bilinguals. Second group is immersed bilinguals. And the third group is homeland bilinguals. And I'm going to talk to share a little bit of what it means to by each group of bilinguals one by one in the following slides. So heritage bilinguals are basically what we typically would call like ABC. They are the people born and raised in the US or immigrated as young children, and they spoke Cantonese at home. They're typically early second language English learners in the US. Usually they started to learn English when they go to preschool or elementary school. And typically, heritage bilinguals, they're more dominant in English, meaning that they feel more comfortable with using English than Cantonese. And then we have a second group of speakers that we look at as what we call immersed bilinguals. So immersed bilinguals are people born and raised in Hong Kong, like myself. They moved to the US for higher education or through immigration as a young adult. They typically spoke Cantonese as their native language. And similar to heritage bilinguals, they also started to learn English really early on, but in Hong Kong, in a Cantonese dominant context. And for this group of speakers, they can be either feel more comfortable in using Cantonese or more comfortable in using English, depending on individuals. And then we have a third group of speakers, which we call homeland bilinguals. This group of speakers, probably a lot of us are very familiar with. That's when people usually talk about Cantonese speakers, they would talk about this group of speakers. So homeland bilinguals are really people who are born and raised in Hong Kong. They spoke Cantonese as their native language. They are also early second language, second English learners in Hong Kong. But they never lived in an English-speaking country for an extended period of time. And typically, they feel more comfortable conversing and speaking in Cantonese. Now, I wanted to provide an example to illustrate what I shared earlier, right? About like how bilingualism is actually very diverse and is a dynamic social phenomenon closely connected with a person's identity. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you an example of two speakers, Tom and Amy. So Tom and Amy, both of them are Cantonese-English bilinguals. And what they're doing here is they are going to talk about the Christmas. And I'm going to play what they share to you. And afterwards, I'm going to invite all of you to participate to guess what speaker they belong to. Okay, so let me play Amy here first.
We would have a tree, but then now we don't really have much space in the house, so 冇咩地方放. But I enjoy looking at Christmas decorations. It's very nice.
Okay, so that's Amy describing her experience of Christmas. And Tom.
我哋就 Christmas Eve 就會返教會啊，聽牧師講個 message
Okay, so that's Tom. All right. So now I want to ask you one question. Which group of speakers do you think Amy belongs to? The first example that we listened to. All right, so what I'm going to invite you to do is to like react with emoji. And we have three options here. So if you think that Amy is a heritage bilinguals, meaning that she was born and raised in the US and spoke Cantonese at home and then learned English when she goes to preschool and more dominant in English, then clap your hand with emoji. And if you think that Amy is an immersed bilingual, meaning then that she was born and raised in Hong Kong and came to the US either through education or immigration, then give me a heart emoji. I'm seeing clapping and then heart. And if you think that Amy is a homeland bilinguals, meaning Hong Kong local people, then give me a celebration emoji. I think I saw a lot of you doing the clapping. maybe some people doing their heart. I saw one celebration emoji. Okay. So a lot of you are guessing it right. So Amy is a heritage bilingual. And okay, I'm actually going to like ask so why do you think that I think you can type in the chat, right? I want to say. So why do you think that Amy is heritage bilinguals? What makes you think that? Okay. Let's see. Oh, okay. Yay. We were able to see the chat. Great. She spoke mostly in English with one phrase in Cantonese, her accent when speaking English. Very nice. So a lot of you notice how she uses her two languages and how she switches between languages and also her accent in English. Okay. Yes. So Amy is a heritage bilingual. You're all right. All right. So what about the second one? Tom. All right. I'm going to play it again.
我哋就 Christmas Eve 就會返教會啊，聽牧師講個 message。
Okay. I saw one more answer of dominant in English, use a Cantonese phrase, and then she picked up from parents. Okay. So again, Tom, what do you think? Heritage bilinguals, ABC, born and raised in the US, immersed bilinguals, born and raised in Hong Kong, moved to the US through immigration or education, and then homeland bilinguals, Hong Kong local people. Okay, I'm seeing a bunch of different things here. So I'm seeing heart, I'm seeing clapping hand, I'm seeing also celebration emoji. All right. Clapping. I'm going to ask the same question again. Why do you think the way that you think, right? So why do you think that Tom is heritage immersive homeland? What makes you think that? I'm seeing more celebration. Okay. I'm curious, right? And it seems like this time we see more diverse responses in terms of like the type of bilinguals that you think Tom belonged to compared to Amy.
I can hop in here. I personally thought it was Homeland bilingual because it's just the way he talked is very HK. And this is just I hear this all the time, and it's just even like the Chinese-English, all of it, just very homey for me to hear.
So you think that he's homeland bilinguals? Is it what you said?
Correct, yes, but it could also be in between the immersed bilingual as possible because he might have also spent some time abroad.
Okay, okay. Yeah, thank you, Kimberly. Okay. Great input. And then let's see what else we have in the chat. We're also seeing some of you say that not sure if Tom knows the word Canto for Christmas Eve, hard to tell, just with one term of conversation. Use Cantonese predominantly with some isolated English phrase. Some of you say spoke mostly in Cantonese with no ABC accent, and he mentioned going to church, and there are not many Cantonese churches in the West. Okay, good observation. And accent is ambiguous. And his way of speaking is similar to how Hong Kong residents intersperse English word intermittently. And okay, and then mostly speak in Canton heritage because he was more hesitant with Cantonese, mostly spoken Cantonese, but then seem completely comfortable. Okay, so we're seeing a mix of responses here, right? Some people think that one of the major characteristics is like really he spoke mostly Cantonese, and he seems like he talked like the way that like people, how Hong Kong people talk. And some of you say that, oh, but then he seems not to be completely comfortable as well. And some of you attend to the content. So all of these are great inputs. And now I'm going to share what the identity of Tom is. So Tom is actually also a heritage bilingual. So Tom was also born and raised in the US, just like Amy. They actually came from the same part of the US. And I think a lot of you mentioned, right? Like you notice the difference in terms of the language patterns that like Tom and Amy use. Like Amy uses English more, and Tom uses Cantonese more, and the way that they switch between the two languages are also different. And even some of you comment about the accent. So the point here that I wanted to share is, as we can see from these two people already, right? Even people who have the same language acquisition profile, they can be very different. And a lot of these actually hinge on their identity and their ethnic orientation. And so I want to share a little bit about like how bilingual people through code switching, it actually demonstrates the language proficiency and cognitive proficiency, then deficiency, which is what commonly people would comment when they talk about code switching. So think about either yourself or like some other people. Whenever a bilingual speaks, right? Say for instance, if you need to navigate your two languages and you switch within a conversation, what you're doing is really, really complex. So you have to integrate what you have from your language experience, like the two languages that you learned through different places, like how you use it, when you use it, and like who you use it with. And to do that, you also have to regulate your cognition to tell your mind when I need to, control myself to use this language, but not the other. And you also have to take into consideration of how you orient yourself to your ethnicity and culture. It's a lot of work, and they're all like intermingled and interact with each other. So in that case, right, like thinking about that, like bilingual people, like using two language at the same time, navigating them on a daily basis is really requiring a lot of cognitive and language efforts than most people have thought about it. And I wanted to show you a sneak peek of kind of like a snippet of like what research or what our research has shown. So basically what we found is if we look at how bilingual people process the language and how in like real-time context, in a lab setting, what we're seeing is like Cantonese-English bilinguals who feel more equally connected to both cultures. They are they're better at using the languages together. So here what you're seeing on this graph basically is we're trying to measure the processing time of Cantonese-English bilinguals when they have to process both languages together. And on the x-axis is how much they integrated their two identities or their two cultures. And as you can see here, people who are better at integrating their two cultures or identity, they also tend to be processing the languages faster. So as a wrap, what we share today in this talk, we know about stereotyping and biases cause Cantonese to be overshadowed, right? And we also know that like Cantonese is the 9th most widely spoken language in the world. And from research, we know that switching between two languages show cognitive and linguistic fluency rather than deficiency. And then the question is, what can we do as a community together? And there are actually a lot of stuff that we can do. You showing up on this talk is already a major step, right? And I also wanted to invite all of you, like all of us who care about our community, our Cantonese community, to spread awareness and join petitions. For instance, like Save Cantonese has a lot of initiatives as well. And just be aware of like what is happening with our Cantonese community and be supportive and show up. And for those of you who have kids, I wanted to encourage you and invite you to enroll in Cantonese class, especially if you're in the Bay Area. There are really a lot of options, right? We know that Stanford has Cantonese class, UC Berkeley has it, City College of San Francisco has it. There are also many community organizations that have free Cantonese lessons as well. So Cantonese Alliance also has Cantonese practicing platforms. So those are all the very useful resources to help your kids to actually be immersed in a Cantonese environment so that we can pass on our language and our identity. And finally, I also wanted to invite all of you to sign up for research mailing list as well. I saw that Kimberly put down the link in the chat already. Thank you so much. And I'm going to put up the QR code here. So I wanted to invite all of you, right? Without your participation, these research won't even be possible. So I'm really grateful. And I think it's a good step to like go like to make our increase the representation of our Cantonese community and educate other people through the findings of the research. So educate yourself and others and participate, which is what all of you have been doing already. And that's the end of the talk today. And I look forward to a discussion and questions. So I'm just going to stay on the slide for a moment, and I guess we can open up for questions.
Yes, so feel free ask your questions either in the chat or in the Q&A function in the panel below. I actually had a question to start. You already kind of touched on it, but so for, say you're teaching kids who want to learn Cantonese, right? Like what are some resources that you found to be helpful? These could be like books, TV shows, etc.
Yeah, that's a great question. So I know that I know there's a bookstore. I guess I'm not supposed to do advertising here. So there's a bookstore here. And even if you look online on Amazon, like try to look for like Cantonese like books, and they're increasingly more and more because like our community has really trying really hard, right, to promote Cantonese. And books are a good way to start, like TVs, because of the internet. Like even if you look on YouTube, there are a lot of like resources as well. I mean, I'm happy to like there are really many different ways to do it, right? And I'm happy to talk in more detail. Like feel free to send me an email if you really have like if you have specific questions about, oh, like what is the bookstore that you're talking about. I'm happy to send you those resources by email. And I also wanted to point out one thing that in terms of like learning Cantonese, right? Language is a really living thing, right? We wouldn't be able to learn a language or like preserve a language without actively practicing it. So one of the good ways that I think would be helpful for kids to learn learn Cantonese is to actually also provide them with the opportunity to interact with people. So it can be a trip, like a family trip, like in the summer to Hong Kong or other like Cantonese speaking places, or it could be even, like on the weekend, take your kids to like Chinatown or Sunset District, like have them to actually order food themselves and encourage them too. I think sometimes like a lot of times I think that since we care about a language so much, then we tend not to want the kids to, like trial like in terms of like learning language, but error is actually part of the learning process, right? So like let your kids to experiment their language a little bit, right? And just encourage them to use more whenever they can. You can also set up like a Cantonese conversation group with other like Cantonese speaking kids, if you know other Cantonese speaking parents. And we have like amazing community where you can find a lot of these like other like Cantonese speaking people as well. So hopefully that's helpful. Other questions?
Yeah, I think that's something that's very important because for myself, I actually used to be very nervous to like just try to speak and then get things wrong, and then I'll be like, I'm not gonna say anything. But as I got older, I realized like you really do need to, I mean, you need to make mistakes, right, in order to learn. And we
Yeah.
do have another question in chat or two. The first one is any advice for an adult heritage language learner who no longer lives in an area with a Cantonese community?
Yeah, so this is a great question. I think one of the things that are like thanks to technology is really right now there are a lot of stuff that we can do online, even though we're like further away from home or like like I think there are starting more and more like classes online, Cantonese classes online that you can enroll in. And say for instance, like if you're really looking for like not classes per se, because I know like classes can be, like time consuming. Also, like sometimes like you feel like, oh, like I actually speak the language already. I just want to practice, right? And one of the amazing platforms is like for Cantonese Alliance, for instance, that I know of is they have like a Cantonese chatting room as well. So this is like low stake, and whenever you want to practice, you can just go there, right? And then like speak with other people. Those are like some of the ideas that you can probably engage in, but then like don't feel you don't need to feel very stressed and like highly committed. You can just do it whenever you want. Yeah, and then like TV shows are always a good way to learn language, right? And there are a lot of them are already on YouTube as well, I want to say. So like yeah, so like those are the major ways that I think like even if you're away from your community, you will still be able to engage to a certain extent. And then I see a new question here. Okay, I know a lot of ABCs who didn't get the chance to learn Cantonese but would like to pass it down to their kids. Are there any programs or resources to help parents and kids at the same time? Yeah, definitely. So, one of the groups that I know of is Cantonese Mommy. You can probably look it up. It's a group of Cantonese speaking parents, right? And really there's like a community with like parents who want to pass on Cantonese to their kids. So first I would say to like form a community with people who also have the same motivation and really wanted to pass on the language as well. And I also think that it's important that when you when us, right, when us want to pass on our language to our kids, it's also important for us to be part of it as well, right? So if you want your kid to learn Cantonese, don't be afraid of like making mistakes with them together. It's actually fun and it's actually good for building your rapport with your kids and as well, right? Learn it aside with them and then like yeah. And instead of like asking them to, okay, you enroll in class and then you come back to me, just grab every opportunity to actually practice speaking with them. And I would say this, try to use Cantonese as much as possible, right? When there's like words that you feel like when there's like a temptation of like switching into English, for instance, instead of like either switching into English, right? When you practice Cantonese or try to search for the words that you actually don't know, try to rephrase it, right? To find a different way or creative ways to say what you want to say. Okay, one more question. What are the best practices for encouraging Cantonese use at home and in communities despite the growing Mandarin speaking population? And how can we help children understand the importance of preserving Cantonese beyond just heritage reasons? This is a great question. Yeah, so I think one of the for any languages, right? If we learn it for just, I mean, like emotionally and culturally, it is very important, right? But for a language to live on, it really, because like as I shared earlier, right? Language are living things. So like in order for it to live on, we need active culture as well, right? So we need like things that people would actually want to engage in on a constant basis than thinking about, oh, I would only use Cantonese when I need to speak with my grandparents who don't speak English. And you would only talk to them like to that many times, right? Like, and so like I think one of the important things is like for us and for the community as a whole to try to figure a way to be creative and create a new culture as well. I remember like when I was growing up as a kid in Hong Kong, say for instance, right? Like there are really a lot like Cantonese pop songs are really a big thing. And I would still remember that there even like after I came to here, there would be people who are like not from the Cantonese community would talk to me about Cantonese movies, right? I know that like say for instance in Vancouver, right? There's some like singers that are local and in Vancouver and they started to sing in Cantonese as well. So I think those are the like some of the ways that like beyond heritage reasons that would be actually important for anyone basically to learn a language. Are there events or resources that list famous Cantonese speakers, for example, movie stars? I'm not aware of a single place where you have the list of I'm guessing you're talking about whether there's like a page where you list all the celebrities and movie stars. I can't think of anything off the top of my head. The only thing that I thought of like with the list is really Wikipedia and Google. And I think I have tried this for other Cantonese stuff, but I haven't tried it specifically for, like Cantonese speakers or like Cantonese movie stars. But I'm pretty sure that right now, I mean, like we can also try it like real time right now as well. But I'm pretty sure right now, like if you try to type it in Google, like Wikipedia seems to have an entry for everything. So I don't know whether that helps. And sometimes it may help to look at like, I don't know, like newspaper entertainment page. That would be a way to know the like trend as well. And I know like San Francisco also has Cantonese radio station where they would talk about like the top ranking singers as well. So like to me, those are also new because like I mean like apparently all the popular stars in Hong Kong right now are not the people that I used to listen to anymore. So like those are great places to look for the most like updated trend. Yeah. All of these are very inspiring questions. Any other questions? Oh, chill club music show. Nice. Love that. Yeah. Yeah, love all the comments in the chat. I learned something as well. I'm going to check it out, Chill Club Music Show. All right, do we have more questions?
So it appears we're coming up to time here. Thank you again, everyone, for coming out here today. We had a very good crowd and lots of good questions. Thank you again, Ariel, for your time. We will have the recording of this available in a few days on our YouTube channel, since a lot of attendees are in other time zones who sadly could not make it to this talk live. And thank you, Keith. Keith is a loyal supporter of Safe Cantonese. Thank you for offering that. Oh, Keith's message just disappeared for me. But anyway, any last thoughts, Ariel?
Well, my last thought is like thank you all for like showing up, right? This is really important, right? Like show up for our community and engage and participate. And this is the way that we can actually really pass on the culture and like keep this like Cantonese language moving. Yay, thank you all.